Mr. Cohen, you made your professional debut, as I read on your press material, in '72, 10 years ago, at Kingston Mines.
That's correct.
Why did folk music attract you as a musician as opposed to any of the other areas, R&B, rock and roll, whatever?
I wasn't in a band. I was writing more or less poetry in the beginning, later developing those poems into lyrics, song lyrics. And the quickest place to go and easiest place to deliver them would be a stage where they played and sang what they wrote.
So like it's something that you can do by yourself?
More or less. With a guitar, and you'd go into a club like Kingston Mines was one of the clubs around that time. Places like the Earl of Old Town in Chicago. College coffee houses.
You played at the Earl of Old Town, haven't you?
Yes. Yeah. Many times.
What do you think it was about the sort of music that attracted the audiences in those days? It sounds like it's prehistoric, but, 10 to 15 years ago.
To clubs of that nature?
Yeah, and to listen to that kind of music.
Well, they still do. They still do. In fact, I'd say that this type of music has had more of an influence on the overall music that is played as a rule on your station. The lyrics have taken on a strong emphasis ever since the likes of Bob Dylan.
But you don't hear that kind of music on the radio as you did maybe
Not as you
71.
did. No, you have more. It's more produced these days. You have more synthesizer use and more violins, but you still have those out there who are. I'm sure you could pick out something on your playlist right now that is really folk music that is put into more of a commercial bag. That's all. Wearing a different clothing.
So you don't think that folk music per se has lost its appeal?
No, folk music is. Now, you're mistaking me for a folk singer, which a lot of people do. I'm not always a folk singer. A folk singer is somebody who, I just read this in a reader, I'm quoting Woody Guthrie, that it is a guy who lost a job.
I thought that was the blues.
No, well, it's probably the same thing,
Okay.
but his troubles in telling him isn't every song in a sense related, because if it's trouble about losing a love or not, one thing or the other, it could be about a subject that is considered folk. Now, when you're solo and you have a guitar, they call you a folk singer, but that's not to say that every solo performer is a folk singer. You wouldn't call a Neil Diamond a folk singer, but Neil Diamond is very capable of going out solo as well, and so I wouldn't say I was the folk singer type that you'd see at the typical folk club singing about those type of I have a picture in my mind when I think of a folk song, and it usually involves a train, a bottle of whiskey,
A prairie, maybe?
and a lonely, empty subway or something. That to me is folk music, or subject matter like that. Perhaps it's been too stereotyped for me, but
Then how would you describe yourself?
When I write, I have typically written sad ballads. Unfortunately, it's not what everybody is out to hear. People do want to go out and have a good time. They don't want to be too depressed. But I find that when I'm enjoying myself and having too good of a time, I'm not writing. I write, or I've tended to write before when I've been depressed. And that's why I think today I find it harder to write, because when you've written what you consider a good sad song, it's hard to write a better sad song.
Have you written happy songs?
I think they may be produced happy, but they haven't been too on the upside.
So the source
Songs
of
that aren't necessarily happy or sad, just admiration kind of song.
Okay.
Where it's, perhaps it's done in a sad style. It maybe isn't really a sad song, it's more of a longing, wanting style.
Okay. But pretty much the source of your inspiration is sadness?
True to life situations that have made me really think, and I couldn't. Usually, you write a song. You're probably getting to how do you write a song in the first place, and what it really amounts to is there's somebody out there that you want to say something to, an individual, and maybe you're really never going to go up to that person and say it. Maybe it's a girl, or it's somebody that a person cares about, and they want to tell them how they feel, and so you start to write a letter, and maybe you never send that letter. And before you know it, you're looking it over and you're saying, you know, maybe if it were sung, it has music to it. You know, when I say the word, now if I ask you to name an instrument, when I say the word, what you would probably name, I'm sure of it, would be violins. I'm going to say the word sadness. I'm going to say happiness. You might mention horns.
Okay.